Good morning and good afternoon, and thank you for joining today's online event about how to manage IT and OT security in substations. I'm here today with Daniel Buhmann from Fortinet. He's OT system engineer there and responsible for the German market. And also with me today is Jan Hille, who is solution architect at Welotec. Again, thank you very much for joining. And I'm Jos from Welotec, and I'm the responsible CTO for the development of those products and solutions. Let's come to the agenda. So we start with a short introduction of Fortinet and Welotec. Then we are talking about the substation layout and traditional protection with firewall. The next step would be about the general functionality of firewalls, and then we talk about the new IT and OT security functions for substations, including next generation firewall, IDS, so intrusion detection systems, asset database, and virtual patching. Then we talk about the problem with more and more devices in substations and the advantages of virtualization, not only of the application, but also of the IT and OT security features and the separation of hardware and software. And at the end, we come to the partnership between Fortinet and Welotec. After the webinar, you have the possibility to ask questions, or you can ask questions all the time. So please feel free to write those questions in the question and answer section or just in the comment field. And my colleague Thomas will check those questions and we'll discuss them afterwards. Okay, Daniel, can you talk a little bit about Fortinet for us?
Thank you, Jos, for the introduction. So my name is Daniel Buhmann again. I'm OT systems engineer at Fortinet. And Fortinet is the biggest cybersecurity company in the world. For all of you who don't know us, you probably heard about the FortiGate firewall. We have a market of 30% of all shipped firewalls worldwide are FortiGate firewalls, and we have about 8,000 employees. For OT security, next slide, please. We have a lot of solutions. So all over, we have more than 30 different solutions in our portfolio. But for OT, we have several solutions adapted to OT or especially developed for OT environments. So for example, we have our FortiGate firewalls as a rugged version, which is for harsh environment like OT. One of them is waterproof and they are passively cooled, and especially for OT usage. We have the same for the switches. We have rugged switches, we have normal switches, we have access points. All of these as rugged version and as normal IT version, but all of these solutions are also available as virtual appliance. So you can use our firewalls as rugged version in OT. You can use the standard cabinet versions for OT projects, and you can use the virtual machines. The functions are all the same. There are several more things like logging servers, FortiAnalyzer for our devices, FortiSIEM as standard SIEM like Splunk or QRadar, central management tool. But we also have a network access control, which can be very good used in an OT environments. We have a sandbox that can recognize that files are malicious and talking to Modbus or IEC 104, whatever protocol. We have an OT honeypot, the FortiDeceptor, and we have an endpoint solution, the Forti Endpoint Detection Response, EDR, which is a very lightweight agent, runs on older operating systems, is perfectly suitable for OT environments. And apart from securing your endpoint, it will also detect your OT assets and show you what devices you have in a network. But back to Welotec, and Jos can introduce the Welotec.
Thank you for the introduction, Daniel. So about Welotec. So Welotec is a 51-year-old company, next year 52 years. And we are coming from the automation field, and we are experts in automation, but also in digitalization and IT environments for rugged OT situations. We are based in Germany, in Lahr, which is next to the border of the Netherlands. and we have a very strong OT and IT background with our engineers. And together with the global vendors for substation automation, we bring solutions to substations and to the power industry. Our solutions are certified, so including IEC 61850-3 and IEEE 1613. And at the bottom, you can see our substation server that is developed together with the vendors for harsh environments, and which brings advantages and cost saving to substations. If we are talking about substations, and today we are talking about the station level that is usually protected by a firewall. So we have the interconnection between the control center and the firewall and the substation automation system. And in between, we need a firewall to protect it. Firewall is monitoring and controlling all incoming and outgoing traffic to that protected system. And it's usually a barrier between trusted and untrusted network and can segment different types of networks. So it protects your most critical equipment within the substation through port filtering or through other IP filtering rules. Daniel, please talk a bit more about the complexity.
Yeah, okay, so once you have these old kind of OT security solutions, there are multiple problems. So on one hand, you most probably have too many vendors. So you have a firewall, you have an endpoint solution, you have probably an intrusion prevention or intrusion detection system. You have a monitoring platform and so on. You're generating events, alerts in all of these systems. You have to look into all of these systems and catch these events and understand them and correlate them. And this makes this a problem because it's complex. It's really complex. It's difficult to train the people to understand all these different solutions and how to correlate these events. And this all together makes your response manual and slow. And you can do this better. What we can offer, apart from a packet-based firewall, next slide, please. So a packet-based firewall traditionally consists of the firewall and most probably of a VPN function. This is what a firewall can do. For example, if you're using IEC 104, you can allow or block TCP traffic on port 2404. If you're using more intelligent firewalls, like next generation firewalls, there are different functions that come on top of this. So next, please. For security, we added several functions, for example, intrusion prevention or intrusion detection. And you can use it both ways, so just to detect or to integrate actively. So you will recognize these exploits that are used you have on your system and that can be used to attack your systems. And you can see the vulnerabilities. There's also a network antivirus function. And there is an application control where you can see which kind of protocols or which kind of commands in these protocols are used. When you come back to IEC 104, you can not only see that you're using IEC 104 and allow or block it, but you can look into the protocol and see each of the commands that are sent and can use them in a policy. You can, for example, allow a reading access, but block and writing access from different networks when it's coming from the outside or when it's going to your control network or whatever direction you're using. Apart from security, there are several networking functions like advanced routing or software-defined network, cloud access, SD-WAN. There's also SD-WAN for OT. You can add our switches and our access points to the firewall and manage them through the firewall. And once you add a switch to our firewall, the switch is becoming a security module because you can use the filtering function I just explained on the switch port itself. And even if it's in the same virtual LAN on the switch and would never leave the switch, you can use our functions to scan the traffic in between. And on top of this, to get all this running, we implemented our own processors. Next, please. Security processing unit, which is part of our appliances, but also part of our virtual devices. We have this processor also as virtual variant. And when you look at all these functions and all the problems we have, next slide, please. We should talk about how to manage a security framework, how to get your network more secure and comply to the standards you must comply to. On one hand, with all these functions, you can identify your assets. You can look into your network. You can see what devices you have. Once they are connected and communicate through our devices, you will see all your assets. You can protect them with the functions I just mentioned. You can detect anomalies and you can detect security events. And you can respond to it. You can plan. You can create playbooks what you want to do in which case of security incident. And you can use these playbooks to recover. For example, you can move malicious clients into an own quarantine network if they are not mission critical, for example. And all this together makes the solution broad, integrated and automated. So it's a lot easier to use, and all these functions talk to each other and communicate and can be used to create your security fabric. That's something we are coming back later. When we talk about the two mostly used functions in the OT world, there's IPS, intrusion prevention, or intrusion detection. Most of our customers use intrusion detection in their OT environments, and there's application control. When you're using IPS, you want to detect exploits. That's something we are going to talk about in a few minutes. And when you're using application control, you want to detect the protocols and the commands that are used in these protocols. You can go down to the message level as well as to the arguments in the messages. And when you do this, we use our so-called protocol dissectors for the substation protocols like Modbus, IEC 104, DNP3, OPC, IEC 61850. So we understand all these protocols and lots more in our firewall. And the dissector is a function that understands these protocols in TCP/IP because, for example, an IEC 104 packet can consist of one IP packet or multiple IP packets. And the dissector and the firewall will put all these together and understand, okay, all these packets are IEC 104, and it's this message that is sent. Next slide, please. These functions are part of our industrial security service. And for the application control I just mentioned, we not only have these 5 protocols, there are more than 1,800 different protocols just for OT, our firewall understands. So you can protect all your ICS and SCADA environments. You can see what's going on. You don't have to use it just for blocking. You can see it for understanding. When you see in the firewall that 2 devices are talking on IEC 104 or 61850 or whatever protocol is used, or if you want to create firewall policies for OPC, which is really difficult because OPC use a different port for each message that is sent through TCP/IP. So you can use these things to better understand and to secure your network. And one example on the next slide is a screenshot of IEC 104. In the first row of this table, you will see, okay, we recognize IEC 104. You can use this application rule to see, okay, is in this package really IEC 104? Is this really IEC 104 message that is sent? Apart from just using the port. So our deep packet inspection will look into the packets and recognize, okay, it's really IEC 104, even if it's using a different port or whatever communication there is. But you can also dive deeper in it and look for the message that is sent and using it even one more step deeper. You can put arguments like the ASDU address or the course of transmission to put this in. And we have customers in an energy transmission that are getting these arguments from the control system and putting these as rules into their firewall. to make a control if it's really what they are expecting. So they have their control system and they have the firewall in a control center where all the messages are coming in from the field network, and they make a kind of plausibility control if it's the right message that is coming in. And when I'm coming to the intrusion detection or intrusion prevention, on the next slide, you can use this to, on the one hand, to recognize some exploits or anomalies on the protocol. But you can also use it for virtual patching or vulnerability shielding, or whatever you call this function. For example, if you're using RDP and have the BlueKeep vulnerability from last year, where you can take over remote systems via RDP. It's one click in the firewall to put this in your rule and to be secure for anyone wanting to use this exploit, or for malware using this exploit to jump to the next host and to compromise this host. And you can also use it for vulnerabilities from the automation system vendors like ABB, Siemens, Schneider, and all these vendors that are in. For example, for OT environments, we have about 400 vulnerabilities in this database, which you can, on the one hand, recognize with intrusion detection, or you can block them with intrusion prevention. And the next slide, please. And before I said we are talking about a security fabric. What Fortinet created several years ago is a so-called security fabric for the Fortinet, for the own Fortinet solutions. For example, our firewall is talking to the switch, to the access point. Our central management is talking to all these devices. The endpoints are reporting to the firewall. When you want to establish a VPN connection, it can check if your antivirus is up to date, if you have a up-to-date signature in your antivirus, and open the VPN connections afterwards. The firewalls are talking to each other. If one firewall recognizes a malicious host, it can report it to the second and the third firewall that is used. And we opened this security fabric to third-party systems. That's the Open Fabric ecosystem on the top right, where we are also talking to third-party solutions. So not only we are reporting to our devices, it's the same for third-party vendors, and that's exactly what Welotec did with their device, and they are using our virtual FortiGate on their Substation PC. And I give over to Jan Hille, who will explain these things.
Yes, thank you very much, Daniel. As Daniel already said, all the solutions from Fortinet are also available as virtual appliances. And in fact, it's getting more and more interesting to consider virtualization technologies in substations, because now we have the hardware which is able to do that. The main benefit of virtualization technology is the separation of hardware and software. That means we create a hardware independence, in fact, of your applications, meaning the application underneath is not longer depending on the hardware. This means we can easily build up a segmentation of applications. If you take a look into the picture on the right side, you see we have a server or a computer like the Welotec Substation server, and we add a virtualization layer to that. Meaning you can build up small virtual computers in this virtualization layer, which enable you to install an operating system and then install your application, which might be, for example, a log server or a power quality analyzers, or of course, a security solution like a FortigateVM into this, meaning you have one dedicated virtual computer for each of your application. Of course, there are quite a lot of benefits when using virtualization technologies. For example, management of virtual machines is getting more easy with regards to backup of applications or even whole virtual machines, or creating high availability setups. If you're interested in that, we already hosted a web event about this topic. It is available on our YouTube channel, on the Welotec YouTube channel. Please take a look at it. Of course, also contact us in case of any questions. When we are not talking about security solutions in such a virtual environment, we have quite a lot quite a few more benefits added to this. We can implement a whole security solution, a security fabric, which is managed through all the layers, meaning we are from the data center or the control center level down to the substation level, even to each single virtual or physical appliance with one security fabric, which is managed at a central point. And in fact, with this solution introduced by Daniel, in combination with virtualization technologies, we have the platform security, the network security, and the application security, pretty much down to your application from an OT and an IT standpoint. And this is very, very interesting. We already did such an integration, as Daniel already said, on our Substation server. What you see here is our IEC 61850-3 Substation server, our RSA PC. And we added a virtualization layer. In this case, we added a Microsoft Hyper-V, which is a type 1 hypervisor. We built in some virtual machines, some virtual computers, which ran some dedicated applications. We tried it with a SCADA system. We had a small log server in there, which required some communication. What we also did, we installed a FortigateVM. What we wanted to do with that is we wanted to prove that we can replace a physical firewall appliance, which secured the whole substation, the station level, with a virtual machine. And what we did there, we took away the Ethernet interfaces from the host system and redirected all the traffic, all the communication through this virtual firewall appliance. And in fact, by this, we could replace the physical appliance. We could control the whole network traffic, which was outside of this RSA PC on the outside interfaces, and redirected this through the VM. We could control it. We could monitor it. In fact, we have quite a few more benefits, meaning if we run virtual machines on such a hypervisor system, the communication which is between the applications, in this case, for example, a log server and the SCADA system, does not cause any load on your substation network because it never leaves this system. We did, in fact, here, we replaced the physical firewall appliance by a virtual appliance. We reached the same level of security. In fact, we even reached a higher level of security because we added an extra layer of security to the substation, especially to the station level in this case. Again, in case of questions to this, please feel free to contact us. Daniel, maybe you can say a few words about the cooperation between Welotec and Fortinet.
Yeah, so the just explained integration was made at the beginning of this year, and Welotec is one of our Fabric Ready partners, what we call the partners that we tested the solution that integrate with us. And there's also a solution brief about this partnership. If you're interested, let us know, and we will send you the document. And that's exactly what we did at the beginning of this year. And apart from securing the system and adding security inside of the virtual machine and the network traffic flows inside of the virtual machines, you could also add different fabric-ready solutions like RadiFlow or Nozomi or Clarity inside of the Welotec system, and even add more security and have one hardware system which you can use redundant, but you can add security to your substation without adding more plates into your cabinet and run this. Okay, back to the last slide. Jos.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Daniel. So now it's time for question and answers. As mentioned before, you can type the questions in the questions and answers field or in the comment field, and we'll check it. And then Thomas will ask us those questions. One last thing, there will be the Secure OT 220 from 24th to 25th of November 2020, which you can participate for free. Dani, maybe you have 2 words regarding this.
Yeah, okay. So I just posted the link into the chat. if you're not able to scan the QR code. End of this month, we will be having the Secure OT Summit. It's the first OT summit from Fortinet. It's 2 days, 2 half days, especially, and it's totally free. So if you're interested in solutions like this, and if you're happy to hear more about our security solutions and OT security things that are happening in the world, feel free to register. On the first day, we will have some very good keynote speakers who will talk about the current situations and problems of OT security. And the second day, there will be breakout sessions for each verticals, and there's one vertical for energy and utilities, for example, on the second day. So the whole day will be about challenges, risks, and solutions for OT security in the energy market. The link is posted. Feel free to register.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Daniel. Thomas, do you have questions for us?
Yes, we do have a couple of questions. The first one is for Jan, I believe, from Arnaud. He would like to know, is the Substation server capable of running VMware ESXi?
Well, yes, we tested VMware ESXi. It's running from version 6.7 update 3. We also tested version 7.0b. And we test a lot of hypervisors, in fact. Hyper-V, we tested some open source hypervisors. So we are trying to be up to date with our hardware with regards to the virtualization solutions, yes.
Thank you very much. The next one is from Amit, probably for Daniel. Did you observe any issues with real-time performance while deploying firewalls for ICS protocols?
Yes and no. So you will recognize this with each network device you introduce into your network. Each device will cause a slight delay, but not as much as using in real-time environments. That's why we are using these OT capabilities, why we are being able to scan these protocols. And for example, we are using a connection through VXLAN through IPsec for one automation system vendor, where we developed the solution to synchronize redundancy protocols through a public internet connection, and it's still fast enough to keep the redundancy up and running. So if you have questions about a specific protocol or specific timings, please contact us after the webinar and we can give you more details. But as much as I can say, yes, we are able to run these protocols and not to interfere with your automation process.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. The next one is for Jan. Chris would like to know, does this always need an operating system in the virtual machine, or will something like Docker also work?
Well, in fact, when we talk about virtual environments, we are now talking on the level of computer virtualization. We can, of course, realize some application virtualization, sorry, with this solution as well, and even hybrid solutions. But even the application virtualization will need a underlying operating system. But what we can imagine, we can install this operating system on the machine itself, but we could also install a operating system running a Docker runtime in a virtual machine. So we will have a hybrid environment there, which should be easily possible.
Okay, also a question about the virtualization environment from Dylan. How much RAM is recommended for the server running these virtual appliances? And have you tested running a Fortinet virtual machine hosted on the same server as the gateway? As the slide seems to imply it's external to the Welotec server.
With regards to the RAM, as a rule of thumb, we can say we need 4 gigs of RAM for the hypervisor, for the virtual environment, and the rest of the RAM which is available in the system. For example, if you implement 64 gigs of RAM, you will have 60 left. You can assign to your virtual machines. It should easily be possible to run the gateway and the firewall on the same virtual environment. Yes, should be no problem.
Maybe I can add something to that. We actually tested that already. So we are running a gateway HMI and also a firewall on one system, and we protected the traffic between the virtual machines through the transparent mode of the firewall.
Okay, I got one question from Yogendra. I think it's for Daniel. Yeah, it's pretty short. Timestamping, how is it maintained?
What kind of timestamping are you meaning? If it's something you're sending in your process, it's maintained. If you're talking about time protocols, that's something we support, and we can send through the network as every other networking device itself can do as well.
Okay, next one is for Jan again. What about reliability? When you bring in virtualization as an additional layer, you have one more reason for malfunction. Is it possible to use 2 of the RSA PCs as a cluster for redundancy?
Well, yes, this is in fact a good question. In my honest opinion, you will increase reliability with virtualization systems, because you will be able to run one virtualization system. You can back up all the virtual machines, and in case of a hardware failure, you can easily bring up this virtual machines on the new hardware again. Then we can, for example, run a redundant system, as it is already pretty much done in every substation, I guess. Meaning build up 2 setups, and if one setup fails, the other setup will take over the operation. Another scenario, which is very common, in fact, in virtualization technologies, is building up a high availability cluster, meaning you have 2 or more host systems, which take all care of the virtual machines, which are running the virtual computers, which are running your applications in the system. And if one host system fails, another host system will automatically take over the operation of the virtual appliances and the applications running on that.
This also applies to the firewall itself. It will also create a redundancy cluster, and the firewall will take over the running sessions. So your process, your connections to the control system will be handed over to the second firewall and will still be active.
Okay, another question for Daniel. Why should I use active technology like IPS and risk to block my control process?
That's what I explained before. You can use it as active technology, like IPS. You can as well use it as IDS, intrusion detection, which is not active, and it will recognize your the events. It will create events, write it in your monitoring database, and afterwards you have to react. You see you have a problem in your system, and you can react, but you will lose some time with your reaction, because you have to see the log and then react. We only suggest to use it actively in the first place when you want to use some functions like the virtual patching, as I said before, with the BlueKeep vulnerability. So you can still use remote desktop, but if on the system you're using and connecting through remote desktop, if you have a malware wanting to exploit the remote desktop function, this will be blocked, but your remote desktop will still work.
Thank you very much. And we are out of time, kind of. We do still have 2 or 3 questions, but I think they are too specific and we have to follow up via email. So I'm handing back to yours.
Okay. Thank you, Thomas, for asking all those questions, and thank you to the audience. We'll have follow-up webinars in the next weeks, also including HSI and PRP, and we'll invite everybody who took place here as well to those webinars. So we would be happy if you could join as well. Thanks a lot and have a nice day. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.